Okay, so Mount Rushmore. You've seen the pictures, right? It's probably one of the most recognizable landmarks on the planet, a massive symbol of American democracy and ambition. But what if I told you that behind those giant granite faces, there's a story that's way more complex than you might imagine? A story filled with huge visions, broken promises, and a debate that is very much alive today.
So let's get right into it. This whole thing started with the grand vision of sculptor Gutzon Borglum. And I mean, what a vision it was. He didn't just see a mountain. He saw a gigantic canvas where he could immortalize the very ideals of a nation. He wanted to create what he called a shrine to democracy right there in the Black Hills.
But how does an idea this massive even get off the ground? And why those 4 presidents specifically? It's a great question, because the original plan, well, it was something completely different.
Believe it or not, this wasn't supposed to be about presidents at all. A state historian basically just wanted to build a tourist trap. His idea was to carve some local Wild West heroes like Buffalo Bill Cody into the mountains. But then Borglum steps in, and he thinks, no, we gotta think bigger. He's the one who transformed it from a regional roadside attraction into this huge national symbol, arguing that presidents would resonate with the whole country.
And his choices were super deliberate. Each president was picked to symbolize a key chapter in America's first 150 years. You have Washington, representing the nation's birth. Jefferson stands for its expansion with the Louisiana Purchase. Lincoln, of course, for preserving the nation through the Civil War. And Teddy Roosevelt represents America's rise as a world power in the 20th century.
Okay, so you have the vision, but how in the world do you actually carve a mountain? I mean, really think about that. The story of how they built this thing is it's an absolutely incredible feat of engineering and pure grit.
So they assembled a crew of about 400 people. And get this, a lot of them were just regular folks, unemployed miners and laborers trying to find any work they could during the Great Depression. They were the ones who had to take on this absolutely colossal task.
And they were at it for 14 long years. Can you imagine? Just dangling off the side of a mountain, hundreds of feet in the air, dealing with freezing winters and blazing hot summers. It's just wild to think about.
Their main tool? Dynamite. And they used it with this incredible precision, blasting away more than 450,000 tons of rock just to get the rough shapes of the faces. Then they'd go in with smaller tools for the fine-tuning.
And here's what is absolutely mind-blowing. Despite all that danger, we're talking explosives working at insane heights. Not a single worker died during the entire 14 years of construction. 0. That just speaks volumes about their incredible skill and discipline. But here's a little-known fact. What we see today isn't even the finished product, not even close. Borglum's original plan was way grander. He wanted to carve the presidents down to their waists and build this massive hall of records right behind them to store America's founding documents. But, money ran out, World War II was starting, and so his full dream, it never quite happened.
All right, so that's the story of what was carved on the mountain. But to really get the full picture, we have to talk about the mountain itself and what it meant to the people who were there long before any of this.
See, long before anyone called it Mount Rushmore, the Lakota Sioux knew this sacred place as Thunkashila Shakbe, or the Six Grandfathers. For them, this wasn't just a rock. It was a deeply spiritual site, central to their ceremonies and their world. And this wasn't just, an informal thing. In 1868, the U.S. government made it official. They signed the Treaty of Fort Laramie, which guaranteed the Black Hills to the Sioux Nation in perpetuity. The words were absolute and undisturbed use. Pretty clear, right? Well, forever turned out to be less than a decade. Just 6 years later, someone struck gold. And just like that, the treaty was toast. Prospectors flooded in, and by 1877, the U.S. government had seized the land. It took over 100 years for the Supreme Court to finally rule, in 1980, that seizure was completely illegal. So the court offered money as compensation. A lot of money. With interest, it's worth over $2 billion today. But here's the powerful part. The Sioux Nation has refused to touch a single penny of it. Their message is simple and unwavering. The land was never for sale. They don't want the money, they want their sacred land back.
And that's where we get this incredible tension that exists to this day. It makes Mount Rushmore this symbol of 2 completely different, colliding stories. For some, it's a shrine to democracy. For others, it's a monument built on stolen land.
You can literally see this collision of worlds just down the road.
Only 17 miles away, another massive carving is happening, the Crazy Horse Memorial. It was started back in 1948 as a direct response to Rushmore. When it's finished, it's going to absolutely dwarf the presidents, a symbol of native resistance and pride.
Of course, all this history fuels modern debates too. Every now and then, you'll hear people talking about adding a fifth face to the mountain. Whose face should go up there next?
It's a fun political debate, right? But the final answer doesn't come from politics. It comes from geology. And the National Park Service has been super clear about this. The answer is a hard no. There's just no stable rock left to carve on without risking the whole thing crumbling down.
And don't think for a second this conflict is just ancient history. It's happening right now. High gold prices mean a new push for mining in the Black Hills, which is sparking all these new fights over water rights, environmental safety, and tribal sovereignty. For the Lakota, it's the same story, different day.
So, when you look at Mount Rushmore, what do you see? A monument to freedom or a memorial on stolen land? It's both. It's a testament to incredible vision and ambition for sure, but it's also a constant reminder of a broken promise. It really makes you think, what stories do we choose to carve in stone, and maybe more importantly, whose stories get blasted away to make room for them? The legacy of Mount Rushmore, you could say, is still being carved.
Enjoyed this video? Please like, share it with a friend, and press the bell icon to never miss an update.